We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Mr. Scott D. Cosenza discussing Donald Trump and his legal travails at present. So, Scott, in the segment just gone, we discussed what happened with the warrant, how it was issued, and how it was carried out in the Mar-a-Lago raid. What I want to talk about now is the legal problems that Donald Trump faces and what he can do about them, or what he should be doing about them. So, first question, Scott, would be, what legal position is Donald Trump in now, or do we not have enough information to make a determination?
Well, if he were my client and came to me and said that the federal government just served a warrant on his residence, I would say he is the target of a criminal investigation. That's the kind of most straight line interpretation of that. Is it possible that he's not the target and there's some other reason? Well, I would suggest yes, it's possible, but boy, they served a warrant on the residence of the former president of the United States, so I think that's unlikely to be the case.
Okay, so at some point, either he or his lawyers are going to have to discuss what was found during the raid and how that pertains to his legal standing, because obviously,
Donald Trump and his attorneys do have a copy of the warrant, which I'm sure was delivered to them at the time the warrant was served, or the Secret Service agents, whoever was there at the property. So he knows, in some respect, what the agents were authorized to search for, and evidence of. Now, he may not have the affidavit in support of that warrant. Now, that's marked the document that really gets into the nitty gritty of what the evidence is and in support of what criminal charge. So he may or may not have that supporting document, but he definitely has the warrant at this point. His attorneys do, and that'll give him some information in terms of.
Yeah, just to return to that, Scott. So the affidavit would be what the representatives of the FBI put forward to the judge as, for lack of a better word, to convince the judge to issue the warrant, right?
Those are the right words, to convince the judge that you have probable cause, that there's evidence of a crime, and that's where it's located. That's exactly what the law enforcement officer's job is in a warrant application.
Okay, so that's not the only trouble that Donald Trump's facing at the moment. On Wednesday, he went to New York to meet with Attorney General Letitia James, who, to borrow words from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm sure she wants to date him.
Yeah, she spends a lot of time and energy on Mr. Trump, it seems.
So, well, didn't she campaign on suing Donald Trump?
Mark, her zeal for enforcing the interests of New York citizens against that of Donald Trump knows no second place, I think.
Okay, and what is it specifically that former President Trump is answering to with Miss James at present?
It's hard to understand a more political, kind of prosecution of Mr. Trump than what's going on with Letitia James. I don't know. Is this the Trump University, or is this emoluments, or what's
I believe this is
flavor
something. This particular one is something to do with business dealings, which obviously covers a multitude of sins.
This is we're talking about an attorney general who thought that the way to fix corruption at the top of the NRA was to abolish the organization in its entirety.
So can I ask you, Scott, what is the supposed role of the attorney general?
Yeah, right. You wonder, it's funny, Mark.
This is a serious question. It's not a gag question.
No. I thank you. Yeah. I didn't take it as it's just, I laughed because of the irony. It's easier than to clean up the tears when we examine,
Sure.
And if you think about it, who are the kind of celebrity big time attorneys general that the press, kind of embraces? It's the Carl Racine's from DC. It's Letitia James. It's Letitia James. It's Kamala Harris when she was in California, places where there's no competition for that job in party, okay, or from outside the party, excuse me. So once you get Letitia James is locked in. She's going to be that attorney general. There's no party competition as long as she wants to be the attorney general for New York, absent participation in some scandal, she's got that job. So it allows her to basically just follow her personal preferences and whims for how she wants to direct the resources that she's in charge of for that office.
It's funny that you mentioned the resources there, because Donald Trump put out on his Truth Social account the other day a quote here. I've got it in front of me just because I found it fascinating and entertaining. Quote, "At the very plush, beautiful, and expensive AG's office. Nice working conditions, as people are being murdered all over New York. And she spends her time and effort on trying to get Trump," end quote. And I thought that really ties in quite well with what you've just said about the usage and the prioritization of resources. But surely the New Yorkers who are living in a crime-ridden city want their AGs to do something a little bit different, rather than political vendettas that, let's be fair, are designed or appear designed to push somebody to higher office further down the line.
Mark, when enough of the people of the great Empire State agree with you, they'll make it so.
So let's get back to the Mar-a-Lago raid, Scott. And it seems pretty clear, according to at least Nancy Pelosi, that it's something to do with files that were taken by the president or his staff that maybe he shouldn't have, and that the National Archive wants back. Now, I've been looking into the history of various people who have taken documents without permissions, and the one that really stands out to me is Sandy Berger, who the former Clinton advisor. Now, he was due to testify in front of the 9/11 Commission. And so he went to the archives to try and remove documents that I believe would have contradicted what he was about to say. And so he shoved.
We still don't know, I think, Mark, what the actual, the truth behind the documents were. But you can imagine for him to go through what he did to destroy them. It must have been pretty
put them down his pants, in his socks.
Yeah.
And then walk out of there with them. Now, he got I don't know how the sentencing stuff works on this kind of thing, but he got a misdemeanor charge, $50,000 fine, 2 years probation, 100 hours community service, and he lost his security clearance. I think that was for 3 years he lost that clearance level.
Good to have friends in high places, Mark.
It is. Well, I'm sure K Street.
Can you imagine, by the way, that is this guy so valuable to the national security that we had to make sure that within 3 years he got those clearances back, so that the decision makers could have the benefit of his weighing in with full knowledge of the national security posture? I mean,
possibly the greatest advantage he provided was large socks. Plenty of space to stuff other documents down there, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that let me just say this. I think that these kinds of cases are so rare and infrequent that we can't develop, think about trend lines in sentencing or charges. I mean, that's one case that we know of that's kind of well publicized, but there haven't been other well publicized cases generally because this isn't a charge that's frequently made against someone in the criminal courts.
Okay, so it really is just a question of wait and see what happens.
Yes.
Do we expect Attorney General Merrick Garland to be speaking on this at length at any point?
Wow, I sure hope so. I agree with you find me in rare agreement, 100% agreement with former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, exactly. That the import of this, I'm struggling to come up with the right way to say this. Even if your reasons for something are 100% valid and just, if some other reasonable observer of those of actions wouldn't have to go out of their way to view them as inappropriate or improper, one might take pains to assuage them that it's not, that the motives are not impure, and charges are political. The decision to prosecute is political. And so I think it's incumbent upon our leaders to suggest, hey, this is not political and let us know why, rather than just be a wall of silence and let the worst potential fears take hold.
Yeah, like Caesar's wife, the DOJ needs to be above suspicion. Scott D. Cosenza, thanks ever so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.
And that's about it for this week on Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I'd like to thank our guests Tim Donner and Scott D. Cosenza, and you, the listeners, for taking the time to join us. I'd like to leave you with a thought from Patrick Henry. He said, quote, "Suspicion is a virtue as long as its object is the public good, and as long as it stays within proper bounds. Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel." End quote. In these days of politicization and partisan effort, Mr. Henry does indeed give us some food for thought. Thanks for listening. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
I think we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fight for freedom.
The tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I
others.
can do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on.